This portion of the John Fredericks Show is brought to you by Hargrave Military Academy. Attend an educational and informative open house event at Hargrave Military Academy in Chatham, Virginia. For more information, visit online at hargrave.edu. Hargrave Military Academy. Build his future.
Joining us now is Democratic Delegate Scott Surovell. He is from Fairfax, Virginia. Scott, great to have you with us.
Great to be back, John.
Always a pleasure to have you on. Delegate Surovell. Bobby Jindal, big speech yesterday in Milwaukee. Now, Governor Jindal from Louisiana, chair of the Republican Governors Association, told reporters on Sunday that Virginia's Democratic gubernatorial candidate has disqualified himself, quote unquote, due to this Securities and Exchange investigation into his former company, Green Tech. Now, speaking to a group of reporters in a hotel in the Cheesehead City, Jindal presented a 30-second TV ad titled Shift that is going to go on the air starting on Monday, paid for by the Republican Governors Association, basically saying Terry McAuliffe's a creep. What do you make of this whole thing, Scott?
Well, I suspect that you asked most Virginians who Bobby Jindal was, you'd probably get about maybe 3 people who knew who he was up here. I'm not sure a whole lot of Virginians really care what Bobby Jindal has to say. Mm-hmm. He's got his own agenda trying to build support within the Republican base for a presidential run. And, I suspect that's why he's decided to get himself involved in all this. But, in terms of the attacks on Cuccinelli on McAuliffe over this, the Green Tech stuff, obviously I think the Cuccinelli campaign is just trying to deflect from their own problems, from the governor's problems, and they're just trying to sort of, I guess, broaden the conversation a little bit about it to deflect from their own problems. Which I think are mounting and growing and really troubling. But I think a lot of Virginians would like to know what these candidates' positions are on issues, and there hasn't been a whole lot of discussion about that yet at all.
Well, I agree with you on that, Delegate Surovell. I think that's the risk in this whole thing, is that the amount of time and effort that's being spent on negative issue. Now, if you get to this, just help our audience understand, and this now has been picked up by the Washington Post over the weekend, but what the Republicans are saying is that, look, Terry McAuliffe had this company, Green Tech, that he's no longer the CEO of, and he was leveraging his contacts to get one of these EB-5 visa foreigners approved, get the $500,000 in. And so he made phone calls. He met with people. Now emails are coming out that he was trying to strong arm or jawbone or do what people do in order to get what they want. And so my question is, did he break the law? Where is this thing headed now?
I don't know. I'm not a federal immigration law expert, and nor am I a securities law expert. I have a law degree, but these are areas of the law that are hyper specific. But and my information about it is solely gleaned from whatever I've read in the papers. The McAuliffe campaign hasn't given me anything, and I'm not really in the loop on that. But my read is that there's two issues. One is that issue is the issue of the SEC, I think, is looking into whether or not the company improperly guaranteed returns to investors, because basically corporations, when they're selling securities, aren't allowed to basically promise that you will make money. Right. There's no investment in the world that's that guaranteed, except for maybe like putting your money in a savings account.
Right.
And then I guess there's a second investigation going on into a company that was affiliated with Green Tech that had something to do with the visas, which I think Hillary Clinton's brother has something to do with. And,
right.
And that's less directly related to this company, although I think Green Tech may have been its only client at the time or something like that. In any event, I can't tell you whether there's any legal merit to it or not. It doesn't sound to me like it's criminal type behavior at all. If just even based on what's alleged, it sounds to me like making a phone call to complain about visas being processed too slowly is the kind of thing that a lot of people do every day, or a lot of things people ask their elected officials to do every day to try and get the government to move faster because it can be so slow sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't sound to me like there's any request that the government do something that it was not supposed to do or not allowed to do. It just sounds like somebody making a phone call to say, hurry up, this is taking too long. And the guaranteed returns part, that's often can be very semantical.
Look,
the language that can be used is often very critical in those things. I haven't seen any of it, and I don't really know enough about that area of the law to have a clue about whether there's anything to do that or not. But again, I think this whole thing's just a big distraction about Ken's problems. And I tell you, this news that came out over the weekend about Johnnie Williams cooperating with the feds for the last whatever it's been 3, 4, 5 months now.
Mm-hmm.
On this investigation is not just a problem for the governor; it's a problem for Ken Cuccinelli because he took $15,000 in gifts at the same time he's not litigating a lawsuit that had been filed against the guy. And you start talking about official acts in exchange for money, that could be a real problem.
Even this interview that we're having at Delegate Surovell right now on this EB-5 visa thing is painful. It's a painful interview because there's nothing there that I can say. I'm trying to find something there, and I'd like to be able to say McAuliffe did this, McAuliffe did that. But the bottom line is, do you think there's anybody in Virginia that is considering voting for Terry McAuliffe that doesn't know he's a wheeler dealer? Do you think, honestly, there's anybody out there that says, wow, this guy's like, great husband, never did anything over the edge, buttoned down? No, the guy's a wheeler dealer, okay? That's who he is. That's how he's gotten to the position he's in. I don't think at the end of the day that any independent swing voter that shows up on November 6th is going to be saying, oh, yeah, Mayorkas, Mississippi, Green Tech, EB-5. No, I'm going to vote for the other guy. I just don't see that happening. And so my question is this. It's very simple, okay? What is Terry McAuliffe's economic platform for Virginia? Finally start to get into some meat that is meaningful to people who are still sitting in traffic in Virginia, concerned about their jobs, who don't really care about Mayorkas, Janet Nepatalo, Terry McAuliffe's EB-5 visa, Green Tech in Mississippi, or anything else. I am so sick and tired of two people, Johnnie Williams and whoever this Mayorkas guy is. What is Terry McAuliffe going to do for average Virginians that need a better job or are trying to get home to work or have other sequestration problems? Lay out a coherent platform for Virginia. Can you do that? Can somebody do that? Or do we have to keep talking about Johnnie Williams and Mayorkas and Green Tech in Mississippi and EB-5 visas? I'm so sick of it. Is it just me? I don't really care what Johnnie Williams did. Look, Johnnie Williams, he gave $15,000 here, $10,000. The guy, obviously, for a guy that has a company that doesn't make any money, he certainly writes a lot of checks. I'll tell you that. I mean, this company makes no money, but he certainly can spread it around 50. All right, so look, maybe Cuccinelli writes a check for the $15,000. We can get that behind us. When are we going to get to some issues?
Well, I think the biggest problem is Ken doesn't have $15,000 to write the check. It's probably
why
it's
I don't
happened,
have $15,000 either. I mean, I'm in the media. I don't have $5,000. Nobody's got. Look, he's got 7 kids, right? He doesn't have $15,000. Okay, yep. But at the end of the day, he didn't do anything for Johnnie Williams. Bob McDonnell didn't do anything for Johnnie Williams.
And his only reported investment was Star Scientific over the last 3 years. So,
well, but here we are still. It's 7:55. We've been with you for 20 minutes, and we're still talking about Green Tech, Mayorkas, and Johnnie Williams and EB-5 visas. And it's driving me absolutely bonkers because I want to know what are the issues in this campaign that are compelling for people to turn out on November 6th and vote for a new governor. And I can't find any. Do you have one?
No, I hear you. No, obviously both campaigns, I think, so far have made these campaigns mostly about each other and their personal lives and their personal records, I think.
Scott, we lost you.
With respect to Terry McAuliffe, I think with a lot of what he said about Ken Cuccinelli, a lot of it has to do with Ken's record on the issues as he's been Attorney General. Lately, it's gotten into the Johnnie Williams stuff a little bit, but Ken obviously has much more of a public policy record than Terry does on issues.
Mm-hmm.
Because Ken has a lot of votes, and he's been AG for 3.5 years. But when I've heard Terry talk about the economy, one of the biggest things he talks about is trying to do more to enhance our community colleges and try and really leverage those more than we have been. I mean, they educate more people than I think the rest of the college system. Northern Virginia Community College, I think, has 90,000 students in it.
That's correct.
And so, I think Terry sees the community colleges as sort of the pathway to sort of get sort of middle-class America sort of going again. And I've heard him talk a lot about that. I know people don't always think of education as a jobs issue, but in a lot of ways it really is because it's your future workforce. I know Terry has talked a lot about trying to take some of the pressure off our teachers with SOLs and trying to have less testing and more ability to focus on kids. I know a lot of teachers feel completely overwhelmed about that, and I know that's something he's been banging on really hard on the campaign trail.
All right, so Terry McAuliffe is the community college candidate. Okay, I got that. What else?
It was funny because before the Johnnie Williams stuff blew up very early in the campaign, he was rolling out a lot of jobs, business stuff back in I want to say May and June, and the discussion's been about everything else since then.
All right, look, we're out of time. We're going to have you back, though. I'm going to get to the bottom of what Terry McAuliffe's vision is for Virginia. Get off this Johnnie Williams thing. Okay, the delegate Scott Surovell from Fairfax, Democrat. It's always a pleasure to have you on, man. We're out of time. We got to go. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me again.